Okay, our wrap-up speaker this evening is, well, okay, so another secret crush. But for different reasons. This is like an entrepreneurial professional crush. So I met Ian.
Come on.
Wait, I met Ian. Well, I mean, his food's amazing too, but no, I met Ian when I was doing some research for my next book. And I was looking for companies to profile who were getting a lot right, but still sort of had some gaps in the way that they were managing a multi-bottom line that we could do some writing about. And I sent out these 100-question surveys about businesses, and then people would come into my office and we would talk and start doing profiling the case studies. And when I got Ian's results, I'm going like, wow, that's really awesome. That's really smart. Okay, that's super cool. Wow, nobody gets that question right. Oh my, and it was just one page after another of a business doing everything that you would imagine a multi-bottom line business would do. In the way that they source their products, in the way that they manufacture, in the way that they package, in the way that they treat their employees, in the standard of care for themselves as owners and partners and visionaries within the business. He came in for a meeting, we talked for about an hour and a half, and he was sort of like, so are you gonna try and like tell me some ways to improve or try and sell me something? And I said, nope. I just want to tell you I'm a major fan because I cannot with any integrity try and convince you that you need me to help you with anything in your business at this point. I was absolutely blown away, and that's where the idea for this series came from, is to get somebody like Ian and other companies on that same path in here to share with you what they do. So Ian is co-founder and president of Left Coast Naturals, and you may not have heard of that brand, but you've definitely heard of Dave & Friends, Skeet and Ike's, Left Coast bulk foods. Half of the bulk food that you would get at a Whole Foods or a Choices or something like that is coming from Left Coast, even if you don't see a label on it. And if you haven't tried those new coconut chips yet, seriously, it will be your new addiction. There's going to be a coconut 12-step program at some point in the future, but it's going to be really fun getting there. Ian runs a company with a vision statement of good people providing good food. That is the essence of their values, and they put those values in actions. I can't wait for you to learn from Ian Walker.
Thank you. Jeez. First, I want to thank Peggy for bringing this full circle in that. One of the things that I always, when I sometimes get people calling me to ask about starting a business. Don't know why, but the first thing I always say is, what do you want in life? What do you want out of your business? And I don't think that people ask that question enough. There's sort of a traditional vision of what success is, and so I celebrate the fact that you're reminding people that bigger is not better. And everything's perspective, maybe to some degree. I've been 17 years now, and my business may seem a little bigger to some people in the room, and to other people it still seems small. Everything's perspective that way, and I've always tried to go along the mantra that small is beautiful, and that you don't need to get to some aspiration that works for everyone else. It's all about yourself. But anyway, I'll take you back a little bit on the history of my business and how we started, and walk you through what sort of drove me. I don't have some shining moment that made me think of this business. I was 24 when I started this business. I was fresh out of university and did what everyone else does when they get out of university. I procrastinated some more and went and traveled, spent, 9 months in Asia, and just stopped by Vancouver on the way back to Ontario. Yes, I'm from Ontario as well. We do have some ethics there.
Go East.
Some things. I'm a Sabres fan.
See you next year.
Oh, God. I stopped by and was visiting my sister and said, maybe I'll look for some work here. If I find something in a month, I'll stay. If I don't, I'll go home with my tail between my legs. So found a job on day 28, I think, and started working here. But of course, I didn't know anybody in town. So you're sort of hanging out with anybody that you can desperately cling to, that you sort of know through friends of friends. So I had a good friend of my older brother's that lived out here, Jason Dorland, and he was at the time studying in Emily Carr, doing graphic design. So as part of his graphic design project, Jason, by the way, was what would he have been at the time? 33-year-old who'd never had a job. He was an Olympic rower, so he did graphic design and rowed for the Olympics. And if anybody knows anybody who's in athletics, talk about starving entrepreneurs, the starving Olympian is even worse. So he went back to school, did graphic design, and you had to do a graphic design final end year project. And for that, he was making peanut butter at home because he was a starving student and decided to make some packaging for that peanut butter. He drew a picture of himself and his dog and put it on there. And at the time, I had just moved out. We were starting to hang out. And he said, Ian, could I sell this stuff? I've sort of made a package. And I said, I don't know. I just did a business degree. Not that made me any expert. But I put together like a 2-page business plan. Not that I advocate for business plans, but he goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. So he said, well, let's start a business. I said, well, I don't know about that. I don't really know anything about this. I like the idea of it. So maybe let's try it out. So we started selling at Granville Island Market. So that was in 96, so 17 whole years ago. Actually, believe it or not, as I was sitting there, I figured out today's our anniversary. So how about that? Kind of sad when you forget them. But anyway, so we started selling at Granville Island. We basically would work our day jobs. I was working sales for an environmental company. Jason was doing duty at St. George's. I think he was helping out at a private school. He was buddies with the guy in the kitchen, so he'd let us sneak in after hours. We would work our day jobs, have dinner, go make peanut butter from about 9:30, whenever we could get in there, 9:30 till about 1 in the morning. We would do that all week. And then we'd go to the market and sell peanut butter. And we did that for 4 or 5 months, and stores started asking for the product. So we were like, okay, I guess maybe we could do this as a business. We were still working our jobs. At the time, I kind of realized I wasn't doing a great job in my other job, and I wasn't doing a great job at this. So you make that kind of ridiculous leap of faith that you're going to quit your job and do nothing. And it's still to this day probably one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to do is quit my job. Because all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got to pay for stuff here. So we started selling to stores, and of course no distributors would carry our product. They didn't really know who we were or care who we were at the time. And so it was us delivering out of the trunk of our cars. And we'd be driving out to White Rock and dropping off $50 worth of peanut butter. I mean, obviously we're losing our shirts doing that. So pretty early on, we decided that we probably needed to carry other products. So we started carrying a few other artisan brands. There's a salad dressing out of the Okanagan called Little Creek we started distributing, and there's some potato chips made in Maple Ridge with BC potatoes called Hard Bite. We started distributing that. So we started distributing other people's products to subsidize delivering our own product. And we decided that if we're going to do it, let's do it differently. So we created a new business model on distribution. Instead of carrying a lot of products and having a big catalog, we said, let's just do a few products and let's do everything for that. Let's market it, let's promote it, let's do everything. So the distribution part of the business has ended up growing to become the largest part of our business. We've continued to become a manufacturer. And then even the manufacturing in the early days was a bit of a joke. We were renting, just so that people get the scope here, we were renting one guy's ovens at a bakery, and then we would like deliver it to this packaging place. We were renting this guy's packaging, and then we deliver it to the basement of Jason's rental house. And then the guy with the packaging machine went bankrupt, so we had to buy that packaging machine and take over a whole 600 square feet. And then one of the things is, at that point in time, we decided what was a good idea. Let's present these products to Trader Joe's. Because, when you don't own any plant, of course they're going to want to deal with you. And we kind of laughed, because at the time we called it the blind leading the blinder, because we really didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't know what rules you could break. And I kind of missed those days a little bit. So we presented to them, and we started making soy nuts, because we wanted to make an environmental, a more sustainable product. So we could do an organic snack quite easily. We started trying to make a soy nut spread, and it sucked, so we did it as a snack. So we started selling those, and not even owning anything, we started supplying Trader Joe's, and built up the manufacturing side of the business. We've continued to grow our brands. selling those throughout Canada. But going to the size thing, one of the things we did do is in the early days we started selling all across the States, and we were kind of like chickens with our heads cut off, running around everywhere trying to sell. And I had a smart entrepreneur say to me, Ian, you know, like, if you're not making your business successful in your own market and feeding yourself in your own market, don't think that you're going to solve your problems going other places. And that kind of resonated with me, and I sort of said at that time, you know what, I'd rather be a strong regional player than a weak international player. So at that time we kind of refocused and said, let's build up the distribution part of the business, let's build our brands in the area, do things that work in Western Canada, and we don't have to continue to go that way. One of the things, I'm kind of getting some of the times running down here, and I tend to be a bit of a blabbermouth. One of the things I do want to bring to, though, is as we've been able to grow the business, one of the big pleasures for me is that I've been able to, you know, the first bunch of years, you're just trying to survive, right? You don't, just trying to make a living. And you don't get to do the things that you maybe necessarily, that's the reasons that you started the business, the reasons that you wanted to do things. And one of the nice parts about sort of turning the corner is that I've been able to give back as far as creating the business that I really wanted, as far as how the programs for our employees, the sustainability initiatives that we're able to bring in, and then actually taking care of myself. You know, I spent probably 10, 12 years of those 7 days a week, ridiculous hours, and that's not sustainable either. So that was one of the things that I actually went to talk to Alana about, is just me working the last 3 to 5 years on myself and trying to step back from the business, stop trying to do everything, start having some work-life balance and being able to give back in other ways than just focusing on the business. So really that's been the thing that I've been working hard on the last while, is aspiring. We really, as a business, have 3 aspirations. One is to be the most sustainable business in British Columbia. Number 2 is to be the best employer in British Columbia. And number 3 is to be the company with the best reputation in our industry. Obviously fairly lofty goals, but it sort of sets where we want to go and what guides how we act. And we've been working pretty hard to do that. So yeah. I could get into some specifics, but I don't know if I have too much time because I see 10 seconds. So I'm totally open to tons of questions on that stuff, and I'm glad to kind of get into that side of things. Not knowing the audience, it's hard. I mean, Gordon said before, who are we talking to? So we weren't quite sure what everyone wants to know. So I'm totally open to get more directed information, mistakes and lessons that I've learned, because there's lots of them. The other thing I was going to say is that before you do leave, please empty that hippie food section out. Those bags have got to go. I'm not carrying them home, so just help yourselves. No stampeding, and that's my time. So thank you very much for